Welcome back for our next lesson on area of composite figures, one of my favorite of the area unit. You might not agree, but I like this one. This is where you're going to find the area of polygons by decomposing, which basically just means dividing them up into smaller shapes, rectangles, triangles, and other shapes. And then our I can statement, I can find the area of composite figures by breaking them into shapes I know how to find the area of. So we're just going to be breaking them into smaller pieces.
So to find the area of composite figures on the top of your note page, you need to write down all that blue writing. You're going to break it into shapes that you know how to find the area for. Then add those areas together to get the area of the irregular figure, which is also called the entire figure in this case. An irregular polygon means a polygon that is made up of two or more polygons, right?
Yep.
All right, this first example is actually broken down for you. We look at the entire shape right here. It looks kind of like a barn or a house where you got the rectangle on the bottom and actually a trapezoid roof. So we're going to first find the area of that rectangle. So we're going to write our formula down. Area equals base times height. In this case, our base is 12, our height is 8, and we have a total of 96 feet squared. Okay? Then our area of the trapezoid, new color for a new shape. Yeah, thanks.
I'll go with your red.
Base 1 is, oh, we got to write down the formula. So base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2 is our formula. We've got 4 and 12 as our bases. So
now, if you notice, they filled it in nicely in this example for us, but we didn't actually know the length of this. This is where you sometimes have to go looking for that information. The length of this side of the rectangle is the same as the base of a rectangle. So since this is 12, we know that this one was 12. So that's where they got that extra piece of information for.
Opposite sides are congruent.
I'm going to switch colors on you now.
Why? 12 plus 4 is 16 times the height of 4 divided by 2 is what we're working with right now. So 16 times 2, really?
So yeah, you could do your 4 divided by 2 is 2. 16 times 2 is
30. What are we doing here? 32 feet squared, correct?
Yep.
All right.
So we have 96 and 32 feet squared. We found the area of each one of them.
So we've broken it down. We found the area of the separate shapes, and now we need to add them together to find the area of the irregular polygon, which is 128 feet squared. So break it down, find the separate areas, add it back up for the total area.
So here's our next one, and there are actually two different ways of doing that. But the whole idea is break this big ugly shape down into two shapes you know how to find the area of. So one way to do it is simply to cut it right here. You made it into 2 rectangles.
Yeah,
somebody else
like me
might go this direction.
I would have.
And make it into 2 rectangles. So either one will work. Let's go with this one for now, but basically we're just going to find the area of each one of those shapes. This is where you have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes the measurements that you see are not the measurements we're going to use. 8 is the length of this whole thing top to bottom, but we don't want that whole length. We want just this part from where we cut it off. So here's where you got to do a little bit of looking around. We know that this short piece here is 2. Then we have this longer piece, and together they go from top to bottom, which is equal to 8. So think of it as 2 plus what gives us 8? Well, that means this side must have been 6 centimeters. So we're going to have to do a little bit of research to find some of these measurements. So for box number 1 up here, it is a base of 3 and a height of 6. So 3 times 6 is 18 centimeters squared. For our bottom one, we look at the measurements of the base and the height. So our base is 8, our height is 2. So our area is 8 times 2 is 16 centimeters squared. And then our total area is, just add the two together. 18 plus 16.
So you're going to have to hunt around, and those opposite sides being congruent with rectangles and parallelograms is going to become important in tomorrow's activity.
It'll be one of those important skills we practice a lot of in the next couple days.
All right, we have another composite figure.
Ooh,
This
I gave
time
you the fun one.
we are going with a right triangle on the bottom and a rectangle on the top. So we have two different figures.
So I'm going to slice it across like this.
First, I'm going to write my formulas down. My shape 1 is going to be area equals base times height.
Now, which are your base and which is your height for that rectangle?
Area, the shape 2 is going to be area equals base times height times 1/2. I cannot forget to divide that triangle by 2. Now I can go back and find my measurements. So I've got the whole thing on the left-hand side being 15. But I know that that is a square on top. So I know that 9 has to go opposite of that other 9. No, here, right here has to be 9. So
well,
that's a 9 by.
Over there.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find this missing, just so I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm investigating. You told us to start out by looking around and figuring out if we had all of our measurements. So that's where I was starting. Sorry. So if the whole thing is 15 and the square is 9, that leaves me with 15 minus 9, which is 6, as the base of my triangle. So that'll become important in shape 2. All right, I'm ready for 1 would be an easy 9 times 9, or 9 squared, which would give us 81 inches squared on top. So now I have, I gotta find
more. We gotta find this piece here.
You should have stopped me.
I thought it was more fun to make you have to come back and do it later.
That's 9 plus 4, which gives us a height of 13.
So we're missing that little piece there, but it matches this side of our rectangle, or our square, so that's 9, plus the 4. So Mrs. King said that this whole length from edge to edge of our triangle is 13.
And it is a height. I know the triangle is crooked. So we got 6 times 13 divided by 2. So that's 13 times 3, which is 39 inches squared. You see how I did that?
I was going to do 6 times 13 is 78. Divided by 2 gives me 39, but we both got to the same spot.
Inches squared. So to add it up, purple please. 81 plus 39 is going to give me a
120
yeah,
inches.
I'm totally ignoring that phone ringing in the background. All right, moving on.
So you're going to have to do a lot of extra work in trying to figure out what are those missing measurements in order to be able to find the area of each of those separate shapes, ignoring the phone.
Okay, your turn.
All right. Part 2 of the video is sometimes we have to take a different approach. Instead of dividing into separate shapes and then adding them back together, one way to do it is pretend there isn't a hole in the shape. Find the area of the whole shape, then subtract away the piece that is missing. So in our first example here, pretend this whole rectangle was here. We're going to find the area of that whole thing, pretending there isn't a hole in it. Then we're going to come back and figure out which part of it is missing, and then figure out how much is left over when I'm done.
The missing piece.
All right. So we need to find our base for our rectangle. It's 12 from here to here. This short piece is 4, and then it's another 12. 12 plus 4 plus 12 gives me 28 meters for the whole length. My height is just my 12, so I want to do 28 times 12. So off to the side, I'll do a little bit of math. 28 times 12. Hopefully I don't make a mistake here.
082. Yeah.
So 336
meters squared.
Meters squared. That's the area of the whole thing if there wasn't anything missing. Now, we're going to go back and focus on what is missing in this one. So I'll switch colors here. Now I want to find the area of just this portion right here, the missing piece. You'll see that the bottom edge, this base, is 4 meters, but we need to know how tall it is here.
Well, you got the height of 4 underneath it, and
we know that this little piece is 4.
Entire height is 12. So to find that height of the rectangle, 12 minus 4 would be 8.
Because 4 plus 8 gives us that whole length of 12. So for our missing piece, we're going to do 4 times 8, which is 32 meters squared. And then our last step is, since this is missing, somebody took it away from our shape, we're going to subtract away its area. And we get 304 meters squared. So we found the area of the whole shape minus the missing piece. So let's try one more of these.
Do they even see where the missing piece is?
They might not. Some of you might be thinking about, oh, what if I just go like this and break it into two shapes. You could, but you're going to get some pretty ugly numbers there. So a different way of thinking about it is, imagine this was a giant birthday cake. Somebody just
And
took
I took the
away
piece away because I'm
that
okay.
little piece. So we
right.
want to find the area of how big was the original cake. So when we're finding our base and our height, we need the measurement for the entire length and the entire height.
That's easy.
So we don't want the 5 because that
Nope.
was just the short piece. We want the 7 because it's the whole length.
So area equals 7 times 10, which is 70 meters squared.
And again, the 10 is the whole height instead of just the short piece over here. So that means the whole cake, before Mrs. King got a hold of it, was 70 meters squared.
Oh, I love cake. Okay, so now we play a subtraction game. If you notice, the bottom of the rectangle was 7 meters, and the top of the funky little shape minus the little piece is 5, which means the missing measurement on the top piece of my birthday cake would be 2, because 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. So the base of that triangle is 2.
Now we're going to do the same thing over here. We know this short section here is 7. We know all the way top to bottom is 10. So 7 plus 3 gives us our total of 10, which means our missing height here is going to be 3.
We need to be careful. We have a base of 2 and a height of 3, but it's a triangle, so we have to divide it by 2 when we're done. So 6 divided by 2 is going to give us an area for that triangle of 3 meters squared.
So it was nice. She took a very small piece for us.
Yes, of course. So we're going to subtract 70 meters squared minus 3 meters squared is giving us 67 meters squared for the total area of our
Oddly shaped figure. Our
Mess.
irregular
Cake.
polygon. Last one. If you think you've got a good handle on what we've tackled today, if you think you can break this one down on your own, go ahead. If you're not quite up for it, that's okay too, but we're going to go over this one tomorrow in class for those of you who are brave enough to give it a try.
See you then.